Talk about, how you got started with Tunezy, and then I want you to take a moment, or I understand you're going to do a little screen share and show us around the site and tell us exactly what it is you're doing.
Yeah, I think the early idea that we came up with, so I was at a Billboard conference in November, and Ron Conway, early investor in Google, was on stage, and he was like, the music industry's gone through so much over the last 10 years, but now is a time for change. Now there's a lot of opportunity for disruption. And I thought, what is the biggest entity within the music industry that can be disrupted? And I came across these record labels. And as kind of an outsider, I tried to come in and understand, okay, what are they really doing nowadays versus what they were doing 10 years ago? And it just seemed like there's a lot of opportunity, and they were already being disrupted by a lot of different platforms. So we said, okay, why not create a platform to really disrupt these record labels? So the original concept was a social record label. Seems like a lot of people just add the word social to anything and they come up with a business. But the more we delved into it, the more we realized, okay, the opportunity isn't that. The opportunity is that musicians are finding new ways to make money. And what is, the up and coming way? What are they able to do now that they couldn't do before? And we saw a lot of platforms like YouTube, which allowed musicians to build followings without, having to go the traditional means. We see platforms like Kickstarter where they're able to raise money. And then we start digging deeper into Kickstarter. We start seeing, okay, a lot of these musicians are raising money for a campaign, for an album, but the challenge is that they don't have that many albums per year. They raise tens of thousands of dollars. Fans buy these perks. If you pledge $10, you get a CD, $50, you get a Skype chat, $500, you get to hang out with them in a studio. And we're like, why can't we just sell these experiences on its own, a la carte? And that's kind of how it came about. We just started talking to a lot of musicians. We started seeing, okay, what are the different ways that they're currently making money? And we just decided to create an a la carte platform, a commerce platform, to just help them sell these engaging experiences.
Okay, why don't you show us the website and then give us a quick tour, and then I got a couple questions for you once we get home.
So I'm just going to share screen here.
There we go.
There it is.
All right, there we go. We're rolling.
Okay, so I'll try to go slow because I know it might be laggy. Essentially, it's a do-it-yourself platform for musicians to sell experiences. So I just clicked here on experience. It's a living room concert experience with an artist called Barlow. He's Canadian, and he's managed by the same guys who manage, the same people who manage.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Go ahead, Terry. I apologize.
No worries. So he's managed by the same company that manages Our Lady of Peace, Simple Plan. And we went to them and said, hey, you should try selling these private concert experiences. It's a good way to make money if you're a developing artist. It's a good way to engage with your fans. And it's just really cool. So, he started selling this living room experience somewhere in Southern Ontario. If you can see here, is where he's playing the show. And these are the pages that the artist will promote to their fans. So we've done all kinds of experiences. Another experience that we did, which was pretty cool, that I just clicked on here, was Naughty by Nature. So they came to us and they said, hey, we're still around. We have some music. It's 20-year anniversary to our song Hip Hop Hooray, OPP. What can we do different, with our fans? And they did a dinner. So 80 fans came out in New York City to a steakhouse to have dinner with Naughty by Nature. And then right after dinner, they went to the Gramercy Theater in New York City to play a show. So this is the storefront where artists can sell experiences. And we also have something called a wish list. And I've just clicked on the wish list here. The wish list is where fans can give experience ideas for musicians. And, we try to keep it as PG as possible. And, there will be those trolls that come in and leave inappropriate comments. But a lot of artists get ideas from this. So, for example, Kathy Nguyen, she's an artist based in LA. You can see things like, I want to have an awesome Skype call with Kathy, or I want a handwritten letter with a picture and an autograph, or I want to go shopping with her. And one that actually got fulfilled was this one here called a beach day. And fans just want to hang out on a beach with her. And I think what's interesting that we've noticed is that, so she's on YouTube. YouTube has created kind of a new type of artists, and I call it some people call it the working class artists. They're making good money. They're not necessarily Justin Bieber caliber nor are they unknown. They're kind of in the middle. And I think that this middle section is the sweet spot for us. And I think that there's going to be more and more of this middle section.
Let me ask you a question about that. You mentioned that your initial gut was to go through the labels on this, and then you said that you've talked with a couple managers. Where do you find that you get the most support to make these things happen? Is it from the labels? Is it from the managers? Is it from the artists?
I think it's the managers, and a big reason is that, one, the labels can't touch any of this revenue. It's revenue that the managers and the artists will get to keep. And I think that the managers are generally much more in tune with what these artists can do, with the type of pull that they have, and also what they are open to. Like you'll have some artists who will say, hey, like literally, and it's very surprising, they'll say, hey, I'm not really good with fans. They'll say, I'm great in the studio, I'm great in front of a camera, but when it comes to in-person interaction, I'm not great with that. And I think only the manager will really know because they hang out so much with them. So I think it's the managers who really loved us, and we've been pitching a lot of managers, both, we pitched a lot of the mainstream A-list managers, and I think what we noticed is that the sweet spot really, again, is that mid-tier developing level, because it's a stage where they're open to experimenting with all kinds of things, and it's a stage where the money actually moves the needle for them.
Yeah, it's something we talked about, is that whole idea of there's like stages in a band's career. And I think, I've said a million times that in the early days of a band's career, they're much more inclined to do things because you're trying to be noticed. And the risk of doing something stupid or being improperly perceived is so overwhelmingly outweighed by the fact that nobody would pay attention at all that it's a little bit easier. As the bands get more successful, they have more demands for their time and everything else. And that was kind of one of my questions. Can you build a business around these mid-level artists out there? Is my question as a business guy.
Yeah. So I think we obviously think about that quite a lot, and a couple things. The first thing is that at South by Southwest, Nielsen came out with a report that said a couple things. The one thing that it said was that, hey, there's up to $2.6 billion of additional revenue to be made in the music industry if producers, managers, and labels can help artists monetize premium content and experiences. And it said experiences. So I think that, clearly there's that opportunity. And also it said that up to 53% of fans are willing to pay for premium experiences if they're given the opportunity. And so we looked at the whole industry, the whole, how many musicians are out there. And based on data, we know that in our minds, we know that there are around 3 million musicians around the world. That's a number that it's not 100% confirmed, but I've spoken to a couple sources and it seems to be pretty accurate. But of that 3 million, there's a huge long tail. And the challenge is that, okay, as a long tail, like a smaller musician, can you really sell an experience? And I think our answer to that is it depends. It doesn't matter how many fans you have. What's more important and most important is how engaged they are. We've had one YouTube artist with 7 subscribers sell for $500 a fan paid to get her to write a custom song for her. And so I think that this mid-tier, this middle kind of torso of the market is increasing because it's easier to distribute your music now. It's easier to market your music yourself. It's easy to have more niche content. Like some of these artists that we work with are super, super niche, but they have followers. And I just think that there's a huge opportunity that segment will get bigger. And I really do think that there are enough of those mid-tier, because every artist who wants to make it big has to go through that stage anyway. So, there will be more and more of those artists going through that stage, I think.
Yeah, and I wonder too, from my perspective, if there isn't a bit of a generational, transition that needs to go on here. The artists of my generation weren't used to doing this. They showed up, they played music. Mick Jagger was more like, hey, you should be happy to be in the room with me. Artists that are somewhere in that transition, my clients in Incubus who've made it a point to be very personal about their approach for a very long time, and the internet is a great tool to do that, or probably somewhere in the middle. But for the artists that are coming up now, that have grown up in the digital age 100%, that have really no idea of how it used to be in the good old days, I think that's maybe the promise in your business here? Because I'll say this to all the artists that are out there watching, all the managers, label folks, is that with the cost of music, being devalued in a lot of ways, this personal notion, what you call experience, what I call making it personal, becomes more and more important in terms of building a fan base and keeping them engaged, when you're past having big hits. The Rolling Stones are out here still doing big business. They haven't had a hit in years. And they're out there selling these experiences for quite a decent amount of money, as it turns out.